I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected, deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode, in low power mode, been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
Hey, welcome back. You are listening to Low Power Mode with Breezy. Happy Black History Month. Today is the day that I'm recording this is 2/2/2022. So 2222, baby. That's 8. No. Yeah, feels good. Yes, it does feel good. I love Black History Month and 2 and the duality and the binary. Music. So I want to jump right in because there's a lot to talk about. So first of all, I don't know if y'all know Kojey Radical, but he's a rapper from the UK, and I think in 2019 he had an album come out, and so I was super into like the music videos and some of the visual art that was coming along with his rapping. He's this dope ass kind of like grime, hip hop, but also soul, and I don't know. He's a really great artist, and if you know him, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, highly recommend you look up Kojey Radical. So I hop on my YouTube and I was going to talk about somebody else, but Kojey Radical had this video called Payback. And I hit play. That's my chair. I need to get a new chair while I'm recording this podcast. But I hit play and what a beautiful display of Black joy and flippantness at the same time. Like, this video is just gold. I love it so much. So you get, there's some, it's a hip hop beat, but you get some trumpets and I think it's like the sousaphone, these big curly trumpet, like second line kind of New Orleans kind of sound. Also reminiscent of like James Brown. And yeah, it was so dope. I played the video and immediately the song has just got me like, no, that's the original. I need to figure out what song that is. But they have the like this funky, it's so good. It reminded me of some funk song that I don't remember. And also I went back and listened to James Brown Payback. And oh man, I cannot get enough of this sound. And then on top of that, the lyrics are like, wait, hold on, I had them up. I'm so bad at closing tabs that I actually need. Okay. It's like the chorus is like, payback, the big payback. Oh no, I can't just do that on the podcast, right? Like, because of rights. But I'm saying who it is. I need to look that up. But just as an excerpt of the lyrics. Dark on both sides, the dress code black. Count my money up, I need my racks. Selling a dream, but I'm gonna need that back. back. I can't go back. Oh, it's so good. Okay, I'm not gonna do any more because, copyright and stuff. But I highly, highly recommend you check out Kojey Radical Payback. Again, this instrumentation laid in along with like what would be a traditional hip hop beat, but then like something about that addition of the live instruments, especially horns, makes me horny. I'm horny. I go horny for horns. So yeah, highly recommend. Kojey Radical was born in 93, so that makes him in his late 20s. He, I think, born to Ghanaian parents in the UK, in London, went to fashion school, and you can tell, I mean, he and Toby Nwigwe are like the fashion rappers these days. It's like, I love it. But yeah, definitely, I think in the States, we really need to look beyond the States for for like to get a well-rounded hip hop scope. You know, like it used to be East Coast, West Coast, Chi-Town, you know, LA, St. Louis. Now it's there's so much good stuff happening internationally. So if you're not hip to some of these UK rappers like Lil Sims, what's her name, Lady Leisure. I mean, there's some legendary female rappers in the UK that are just killing it right now. More on that later, but this Kojey Radical song, like especially for Black History Month, is like when Beyonce dropped Black Parade. You know, it's just like, oh, every once in a while we get that Black anthem. So highly recommend you check out Kojey Radical. And we are going to transition into the TV segment. Television. Hey, we're back. And I want to get into a heavy TV show. This is kind of a heavy episode, so I mean, but the podcast is called Low Power Mode, so you know why you're here. So I want to talk about Euphoria. Euphoria is starring Zendaya and Hunter Schafer and a whole bunch of other super talented young, college age, pretending to be high school age actors. And when this first came out, I had been back in the East Coast after a really rough year on the West Coast, and I had friends who were struggling with addiction, and I have less so with, even though I smoke weed every day, less so with drugs, more so with eating disorders has been like my kind of like addiction experiences. So, but there's, I know it sounds crazy to compare eating disorders to drug addiction, but there's a lack of control of the way that your mind and your brain is working and what your body's doing, what your brain's doing. And it's like very tricky. And I also think that sensitive people need some way to cope with living in an insensitive world. So, when Euphoria first came out on HBO in the summer of 2019, I historically get super bad period cramps ever since like 2016. Something switched, and actually I got off birth control, and ever since just get slammed every month. And so I was completely obliterated from cramps. So like on this couch, but I was house sitting, like my parents lived on the campus of this school, and their neighbors were away for the summer and they needed someone to like feed their cat or whatever. So I went over there, would hang out, with the cat and whatever. So I watched Euphoria, and damn, it's crazy, like when you see a TV show and it's just so authentic and hitting you right where it hurts. And I think that's what Euphoria does, and I'm grateful for it. Like I want to be hit with what it gives me. I'm very much like a realist, and I'm very much into not shying away from the truth. And I went through so much. I think so many people go through so much fucked up shit in like high school and college years, and we don't really get to like frame it or talk about it or like reflect on it. We just kind of like move on. And so seeing Euphoria and also like having come into a queer identity and then seeing this main character. So Rue, and I'll say that this story is based off of an Israeli, I think it was originally an Israeli TV show that they adapted for the States. And of course, like Drake and I think Future, or some, yeah, there's rappers who help fund this TV show. But the leadership, the the team, you know, the writer, creator, director is Sam Levinson, and he is killing it. Between him, his DOP, I think it's Marcel Rev, and the styling, like everyone's killing on this show. But to be introduced to this character with a black mother, a white father, and the father is sick with cancer when we get introduced to him, so he's slowly dying, and Rue has a younger sister, and she just doesn't know how to cope, and they do this whole thing with like the background of the character backgrounds of the characters in Euphoria that I think they do so well, characterizing these characters, and with Rue, there was some sort of condition that she had when she was born, and there's some sort of like very specific like a heart condition or some sort of like physical ailment that she deals with, and because of that she has gone to drugs, and we meet the character Rue on her first day out of rehab, and she falls in love with this character Jules, and it's great because Rue is kind of a tomboyish teenager, and Rue's love interest, Jules, played by Hunter Schafer, is Hunter is a trans woman, and Hunter also plays a trans woman or a trans teenager on the show. So, but never do you hear the words trans or queer or gay. And I love that. It normalizes like love is love. And it's really cool to see. And they explore like domestic violence within relationships. They explore people presenting as a warm, happy family, and in reality, like all the dirty shit that's going on behind the scenes. And yeah, and I think that there's such a need for this, especially being a part of the queer POC community and having so many young people taking their lives. I think this is largely because they feel and know that society has a hard time accepting them and makes them feel like such outsiders that they don't belong in the world. And so having a show like Euphoria that explores or involves in a mixed race or like mulatto like character, and a queer sort of love story, and there's so many facets too, because with the character played by Barbie Ferreira, Kat in the show, she experiments with being a cam girl. I mean, this is our reality. Like, we don't, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. I feel like to ignore things like cam work and like TikTok is to ignore where young people are actually at. So, anyway, this show blew me away. Labyrinth does the music, and his theme song that he made for the first season of Euphoria was so impactful to me. Like, the song About Me off of my Mulatto Madness mini album is highly influenced by Labyrinth's Euphoria theme song. So, and really the song itself, because the song is about, like, it's like, I'm so low and I don't know what to do about it, so give me pills or something, because I'm freaking out and I can't handle it. And that's the essence of Rue's story. So we're in the second season now, and it's really crazy I can imagine, to start a show pre-pandemic and then have the pandemic happen, not being able to film or release your second season until 2 years later. I mean, obviously all of us had to go through that, but it's just super interesting to see what it did for the show, because inevitably it would be a different show had they not had that extra year to develop backstories and like fill in a lot of the shade in, like a lot of the story. But they made some really awesome decisions. Like like Kodak, they did like Kodachrome, I think it's called, or something, from the 70s or the 80s. The Euphoria team got in touch with Kodak and had them reopen their shops in order to film the whole, I'm pretty sure the whole second season on this very specific film, to give it this like warm, grainy feel. So it's one of many decisions that they made in the second season that is so, I think, brilliant and timeless. And oh man, this show is so wild. There's so much fun shit in there. Like, the first season, I was going back and looking at the names of the episodes, and most of them are like hip hop songs, like names of hip hop songs or just songs. And it's like, oh God, I love that. I love when there's intention in every single angle of a piece of work. And I think that's what Euphoria is. Now, I did a quick Google because I was like, what are other people saying about Euphoria in this second season, especially because the first season was so good and not, it was very artsy, and they did like incredibly interesting. For instance, they built this room that would rotate. So when they film Rue doing drugs, she then has to climb and manage the room as if it's like a sideways hamster wheel. And what it does for the way that her body needs to move is so brilliant. I mean, they built that, like the intention that goes behind some of these shots. Already in the first season, it was amazing. But in the second season, they are getting artsy, and I love it. I have seen a lot of people be like, it's too, like it's too artsy for its own good and blah, blah, blah. But we're currently in the fourth episode of season 2, and it starts out with Rue having sex with Jules. They finally got together after a tumultuous like first season, and Rue has relapsed, and so the she can't she can't feel what Jules is doing to her. So Jules is going down on her and she can't feel a thing because she's completely drugged out. And and because she's an addict and because things are so rosy when you're on drugs, that's why this works. Sam Levinson decided to have Rue, Rue's saying like I'm in love with Jules and everything's perfect. And then they do images of classic movie moments and things with people in love. Like I think it was Yoko Ono and John Lennon. There was Brokeback Mountain in there. There was like this Victorian I should know the painting, but like this beautiful one with Jules. They did Snow White, like they did full on cartoon shot. It was so funny. It was so good. It was so brilliant. They did Titanic. It's just hilarious. And the dark part of it is that this is the first time Rue is having sex and she can't feel a thing. And it's it's so well done because she's under this impression that she has everything under control when she has absolutely nothing in control. And she has this thing she keeps repeating through each episode. Don't let Jules ever find out what I'm about to do. And it's like Jules knows what's up. You're not hiding anything. So I don't want to go too deep into it again. I try to give you my impression of the show instead of just a full on summary. But there's some other amazing writing and like storytelling that goes on here that I think is so brilliant. For instance, because Rue is completely out of it and everything, it makes space for Jules and Elliot, who is this friend of Rue's, who Jules doesn't know they've been doing drugs together. It makes space for them to kind of have a thing. And it's cute. Like you want to root for them, even though Jules and Rue are in a relationship and Elliot is kind of like the third wheel. It's wild because you have Jules and Rue is hiding that she's doing drugs to Jules. And then you have Jules and Elliot, and Jules is hiding that she has a crush on Elliot. Elliot's hiding from Jules that he's doing drugs with Rue. And what was wild is among all of this, Rue goes to the bathroom, quote unquote, does a line, leaves a line for Elliot. And Elliot goes to the bathroom, sees the line, and blows it away. Like doesn't do the line. And he's been doing drugs with Rue this whole time. So he likes Jules so much that he doesn't want to be completely zoned out. And so I love it. I love it. I'm trying to study these shows and these things that I really love, because I think once you understand like that formula of the way that the stories are moving, what happens within the stories and how they all weave together, it's so exciting and fun to experience a show like critically like this. Oh man, what else do I want to? Okay, I know what I want to do. So there's a scene. So if you watched Grey's Anatomy, I think it's McSteamy. He plays a really incredible dad of this, captain of the football team, like handsome white guy, like who's actually abusive towards his girlfriend, emotionally manipulative. So he plays Cal, the father of Nate, who's the like captain of the high school football team. And Cal has been, this is so spoilers, so you gotta go watch Euphoria season 1 to catch up. But Cal has been going to have random dick appointments at a motel and filming it. And Nate found out. Nate saw one of these films by accident. And so, long story short, a bunch of shit went down and Cal got beat the fuck up. So he's got a head injury. And we've got this like amazing scene in this 4th episode early on where Cal is clearly drinking with the head injury, and Nate has a little Tiffany's bag he's going to give a gift to Maddie, his kind of but not girlfriend, for her birthday. And Cal is just being an asshole and saying really awful things to Nate. And he leaves. Cal goes to leave the house, shit-faced, head injury. And Nate is like, wear your seatbelt. And Cal's like, okay, Dad. And it's like this sick reversal of roles. Oh, it's so well done. So I'm going to jump to the end of the episode where Cal comes home from this job. The whole episode takes place over the course of 2 hours or something, like, because it starts when it's dark out and it ends when it's dark out. It's just one evening. And so Cal comes home after getting kicked out of a bar and starts peeing in the foyer of the house. So wife comes out, Marsha, she's like, what the hell are you doing? He was like, I'm just like, I don't know, leave me alone, whatever. He's just like peeing and she has no idea what's going on. She's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I think I'm lonely, like completely seriously and lucidly says this. And there's this amazing scene where he's below and they're up above, like on the staircase, and like there's the banister. And so the wife and then the 2 sons, Nate and the other one, they're all standing there. And he kind of goes on this whole rampage about how he wants to have sex with whoever he wants. And he has had sex with a ton of gay men. And the first time he had sex with a gay man was when Marsha was pregnant with the first son. And just this super fucked up stuff. And then he says, the older son is getting really upset. And he says, if I had gone and like, basically like fucked a stripper or something, then like you wouldn't, you'd be like, don't tell mom, like you would like admire me, but because it's men and trans folks, like you, like the hypocrisy. And the sick thing is he's a little bit right, but he's just being an asshole. So he kind of comes halfway up the stairs during his speech. He goes back down the stairs. Oh, he comes up the stairs, takes the family photo off the wall, tells Nate how much of a like mistake he is, or how much he regrets having Nate as a son, and then leaves. And it's, you see, like earlier in the episode, you see Nate's emotionally manipulative behavior with someone he's having sex with, and it's like, wow, like the trauma cycle. I think that's what the show does so well, that even though this is like, it's kind of like a white show, like it's more, it has Black characters, but it's not centered in Blackness, but I feel so connected to it. There is diversity, but it's more about these characters and their stories and what drives them, and giving the background. And when you see the whole picture, you see, damn, like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that if Cal was gay and he repressed that at a young age, then he would be going and having sex on the sly. And he says something to Nate in this speech like, sorry, my double life fucked you up. Like, as he's laughing. So he's not sorry. And it's striking. It is amazing. And it's also nice because the show's really heavy. So they do these breakdowns at the end of the episode, and it really helps you to like see what the show's doing as well as experiencing what it's doing. Another thing that I have to point out is the music. The first season, the music was incredible. The second season, the music is phenomenal. I mean, they went back. I see it so much in so much media and music, TV, film. Everyone's going back to the 80s and 70s, and there's this whole aesthetic that's coming back, and it's cool to see it play out in the show because it's not like we're doing what everyone else is doing. It's like really, really well done. I don't like Spotify, but I thought about going and looking up like the Euphoria playlist or whatever, season 2 playlist that I'm sure is out or would come out, because the music is so good and it's like some throwbacks, some really good stuff. Yeah, highly recommend Euphoria. And especially if you are someone who's dealt with any sort of addiction, and it's healing for you to have it be played out like artistically and given a characterization beyond like some strung out white dude that we've seen a lot when it comes to drug stuff. But like, no, this is this biracial high school kid who's really sensitive and queer. And yeah, can't say enough good things about Euphoria. All right, so that's going to wrap up our TV section. And take a sip of water, light some incense, hold some crystals for this next film section because we're going deep. Movies. Film. All right, welcome back. Hope you've had a little bit of water, taken some deep meditative breaths. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into it. So, W. Kamau Bell is a comedian and like a public figure. I don't know, everyone has that on their Instagram these days. He's an actor. He's a philosopher, I would say. He asks questions, which I so appreciate, a critical mind. But on top of that, he's very interesting to me because he is like this super tall, black, cisgendered man, nerd, super into like Denzel movies and like superheroes and Marvel stuff. He has 2 daughters. His wife is white. And I saw him speak when I was living in Massachusetts. My mom took me to see him, and it was great. It was so fun, and we wanted to say hi to him after the show, but they were like ushering us out, and I tweeted him. I was like, I wanted to say like, amazing show. Wanted to say what up, but they let us out. He was like, you should have said you were my cousin. I was like, man, this dude's cool. So, and then a friend showed me The North Pole, which is an amazing Bay Area web series that I'll talk about at some point, TV show that I'll talk about at some point, but he popped up on the North Pole. He's one of these awesome comedians of color, like in the same room as like an Aparna Charla or Hari Gondabalu. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm messing up names. But yeah, this sort of observational comedy stuff that I love. So W. Kamau Bell, he's lived in a lot of different places, but he was living in the Bay Area for a long time, I think, before moving to LA. So my mom and I just moved to the Bay Area. So my mom had his book. I was reading Will Smith's book. Then we switched. And now I'm reading W. Kamau Bell's book. And out of nowhere, my mom was like, because I can't look at the news. I can't do it. So my mom was like, yeah, W. Kamau Bell's doing something about Cosby, like a documentary about Bill Cosby. And I was like, what? Because he's done some really amazing stuff in the past. Like he had a show called Totally Unbiased. He had United Shades of America, where he goes and talks to the Ku Klux Klan and like does this sort of activist, like groundbreaking kind of let's start the conversation, start of work, kind of work. So when he like I was just like, okay, this is so interesting. W. Kamau Bell is doing a Cosby doc that's probably going to be along the lines of what we've seen with Finding Neverland, the Michael Jackson documentary, R. Kelly. I'm blanking on the name of that one, but the Dream Hampton one. I'm thinking also of O.J. Simpson. Some of these documentaries that I've seen in the past like 5 or so years have blown me away because they're often like Black men who are given too much power. And then in the States, like if you're a white man and you're given too much power, like this is something we're kind of used to. Whereas if you're a Black man, you're given too much power and you start to abuse that power. The States is such a delusional place. Like in order to operate, you have to be deluded on some level. You can't like hold how fucked up everything is all the time. The fact that people don't acknowledge the real history of the States, the fact that people don't engage with even seeing Black people as human. I mean, it's wild the level of denial that people from the States can hold true for themselves. And I think when it comes to these sorts of things, such as super famous Black entertainers, or super famous Black entertainers to be specific, because I'm thinking about Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, and OJ was an entertainer as well. I mean, he started playing football, but he was then in our consciousness and staying around after his football days. So it's Black entertainment. And something I've been thinking about recently too, I heard Kid Fury mention this term parasocial relationship on the read. And I was like, parasocial relationship, wow, that's interesting. And I looked it up. It's when someone is completely involved in many aspects of somebody else's life and that other person has no idea who the other person is. The person has no awareness of this other person who's completely involved. So if you stand Beyonce, if you're part of the Beehive, then you have a parasocial relationship with Beyonce. So this helped me, this helps in terms of social media, but this also helps in terms of understanding TV. And in Will Smith's book, he says that, there's music famous, TV famous, and film famous. And TV famous you're in people's living room. Film, you're out in the theater and it's like boo da, da. Or you could be at home, but TV is regular and consistent and a part of life. Like before, I'm talking like cable TV and programmed TV, kind of before we split off into streaming. So the impact that being on TV had on the average, let's say, US TV viewer is what I imagine today being in a parasocial relationship with someone on Instagram, if that makes sense. So W. Kamau Bell looked up to Bill Cosby. He was part of the Cosby generation, born in the 70s. And he's a comedian. I mean, Bill Cosby like opens up so many doors for comedy and black TV and all of this stuff. So W. Kamau Bell was like, what happened to my hero? And how did he become a rapist? And that is what the documentary series We Need to Talk About Cosby is addressing. Now, he states right off the bat there are a lot of people who are asked to be in the documentary. And there's some glaring people who aren't in the documentary who I'm like, oh, wow, interesting. But it is so heinous, but also incredible to hear these, it's to hear the women talk about their stories and how each and every woman thought she was the only one and a master manipulator. And the US rape culture. It's stuff we need to be talking about that we're not talking about. And in the black community, Cosby is such a dividing thing, like you can lose family members, based off of where you stand on Cosby as a rapist. And it's wild. It's wild because it's so obvious. And being an AFAB, like assigned feminine at birth person in this world, it's just not a good, it's already, it already doesn't feel safe for us. So I don't know, off the top of my brain, I want to thank W. Kamau Bell because not only do these stories need to be talked about and believed, but also we need to work on as a culture, as a country, and perhaps as a world plugged in. We need to work on our relationships to people who we love through their media. And I'm an artist, I'm someone who's giving you my art and wanting you to love it, and by virtue of it, love me for that. So being on that end of things, it's counterintuitive, but the amount of times that people would say, that wasn't the Cosby that I knew. Or no, not Bill Cosby. If someone's presenting facts, and And okay, it's so complicated as well because the majority of the women who have come forward, who Bill Cosby drugged and raped throughout his career, have been white women. So obviously, there's a very complicated history in this country between white women coming for black men. Talked about it with Candyman. And this factor of race within the story, I think, is extremely complicated because it makes the black community say, whoa, whoa, whoa. We know white media will tear us down at any given point. Like, they're ready and able and willing. So what's really going on here? And that's where it's just so tough because you see, like, as a black person, you have to roll a certain way when it comes to white people. But then as a woman, you have to roll a certain way when it comes to your stories around sexual assault and rape. And that's fucked up because this country should be way more safe than it is, but it's not. And it's still so much this, like, boys will be boys. That's what men do, this philandering, like, thing. You know, Cosby's like in his 80s now, so I think the time period is important, but at the same time, I came of age, I'll say I came of age after Cosby's time, when he was like really, really, really hot. And I felt like my relationship with black men was so confusing because it would be mostly black men on the street following me or hitting on me in ways that were, like, and there's, I don't always hate getting hit on by black men on the street, but there's some times that I've had that have been frightening. And another aspect is, like, when hashtag Me Too came around, like, totally, yes, me too, and it sucks because when you're emotionally manipulated or sexually assaulted or raped, what happens psychologically is so damaging, and or in my experience, I have like such a complicated relationship around sex because of some of the experiences that I've had. And I think that is probably very much the same for a lot of people. And so I know it's not comfortable. And I know, especially if you're black and you grew up watching the Cosby Show or listening to his comedy albums, or like, I've been thinking about this so much ever since the R. Kelly MJ stuff. And I think it's also super daunting to be like, I'm 33, and now every time I go on Hulu or whatever, there's a new documentary about how fucked up the 90s was, or how this person was really a rapist, or how, like, really a lot of our foundational cultural beauty has been discolored by this dark history. But the only way to heal from it is to air it out and to talk about it. So, and it's okay if you can't do, like, I think, when it comes to Michael Jackson or Kelly and Cosby, if you still need Cosby in your life in terms of his work, I'm not coming for you. I think it has to do with acknowledging that he is also a rapist and also someone who has been telling us throughout the years that he's very much like Donald Trump, someone who has developed this narcissist complex. So when they don't get their way, they make it hell for everyone. And his 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 tactics and his methods were so creepily similar from case to case. It's frightening, and oh man, this doc is crazy. So it's 4 parts, and I always get stressed out with like how I'm gonna watch it. So I found that there was Showtime. Like my mom found through Showtime that you can like sign up for Showtime for 99 cents for 3 months and be able to watch or whatever. So we watched the first part, and then if it seemed as though it was going to have to be, we would wait a week before we'd get to watch parts 2, 3, and 4. But while I was rewatching part 1 for this podcast, it just kind of rolled into parts 2, 3, and 4 right afterwards. So we were up all of last night watching the whole thing. And my mom is like very quick to fall asleep when we're watching TV, and she stayed up. Like she stayed up because it's her childhood, it's her lifetime that this is running against. So this is the culture that she was born into. You know, this so Spanish Fly is something that they talk about a lot because Cosby talks about it so much. I had heard it on Golden Girls as a reference, but I didn't understand that it was basically like early roofies kind of. And the idea was that you would give a woman Spanish Fly, and then she would need to have sex with you. And so he talks about this, and he talks about like finding out about it when he was 13 years old or something, and then just being like, yeah, I want this. Where do we get this? And I can understand. So he was born in 1937. So if he's 13, then we're in 1950. So, you know, I can understand. I can understand how far behind we were in 1950 when it comes to women's rights. Not even women's rights, you know what I mean? Like this is like straight up. Let me try to stay focused. I understand the times, and I can understand being a kid and being like, okay, to be cool and to be a man, I need to have sex with a woman. Oh, or you know, like another teenage, hopefully, like person. So okay, and here's a thing that is popularized by men on the backs, like comic issue covers and stuff, talking about Spanish Fly. Like that's Bill Cosby didn't come up with Spanish Fly, and that's something to examine. But don't you get to a point where at some point where you're like, oh, I don't think I wanna. The irony is, as Bill Cosby, so beloved, he could have had sex with whoever he wanted, whomever. So the fact that he chose unconscious women, you know, what is that? As I said, it's dark, but I think we need to talk about it, just like W. Kamau Bell said. And it's like, it's so helpful to understand the US in my relationship to it when I watch a documentary like this. So sad to say, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can say that. Like, there's horrific things that come with growing up in a country, or generally a horrific past, or things to reckon with that are uncovered, especially as you get older. And so we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it. It's so crazy. It's just so crazy how unsafe women are. And how little we learn about things like rape in high school. Like, for instance, if I have a high school and I know that kids are going to be experimenting with sex, I'm going to tell them that if someone touches them without them saying yes explicitly, like, this is another thing, like, consent had not come into the vernacular. It didn't come into the vernacular until like the last, 10 years or something? Like, I don't remember consent being a thing growing up. So I would say you need to always be having consensual sex. And if someone touches you, you need to not feel ashamed of that. You can feel violated, and you can let someone know, and you can get help with that experience. And if you are raped, do not shower. Go to a hospital where they will hand you a rape kit, or where you will go and be tested, and where it is more likely possible for something to be done about what has happened to you. I do not think 16-year-olds are too young to hear that. Come on, people are getting raped as children. It's just, the no is no thing needs to be explored within the sexual realm. Like the talk, the birds and the bees or whatever, rape needs to be a part of the conversation. And I can't imagine how hard that would be as a parent, but I know that it can't be as hard as having your child raped. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to grapple with this stuff. But again, I will stand by it, and I'm glad to highlight the work of W. Kamau Bell in asking the questions. How do we think about someone we loved who is now a known serial rapist? It's really tough. It's really tough, and we need help. We can't just be expected to deal with this on our own. Like, as a collective community, I know it's not us who are rape victims of Bill Cosby. Well, who knows? Someone could be listening to this. But I'm talking about as a culture, we need to look more at the ugly things, especially when it comes to women of color, queer people of color. Like, don't get me started on the amount of Black trans women we lose every day. So I think what I'm going to talk about what W. Kamau Bell does so well in telling this story. So he focuses on some important things that were interesting for me to understand, like Hugh Hefner and the Playboy franchise or enterprise. And they had these different locations, and they would have these shows, and it would be like a real platform for entertainment. And Hugh Hefner apparently was one of the only people in white entertainment who was hiring Black entertainment. So here we have someone who is destructive in the world of feminism and uplifting in the terms of civil rights. You see how complicated this shit is when you go intersectional and when you're Black, like, person with a vagina. It's just wild. So another thing that he focused on that I thought was super interesting was the family-friendly bit. Bill Cosby, not only with the Cosby Show, but with tons of TV programs such as Picture Pages, Jello pudding pop commercials, and a lot of the media. Bill Cosby, after his kind of like heyday in the stand-up comedy days, was turning towards like children's television. And we know that like his early days of assaulting women based off of the women who have come forward is the 60s. So the 70s is where he really leans into the family friendly, like children narrative. And he becomes this moral, upstanding citizen. And he's a Black man, but he's also your teacher, your educator, your friend, your dad, your goofy uncle. He's all of these things to kids. If we're talking about Black kids, who many of whom do not have the presence of their fathers due to a whole host of systemic reasons. So this is fascinating because if Bill Cosby, and he knew what he was doing, I mean, over 60 women have come forward. So, and as someone in the documentary points out, if it was 60 women who came forward, then we know it's probably 120, 150 whom he did this to over the years. So that pointed decision, that kind of serial killer, psychotic feeling decision to be so calculated about his image in pop culture. And also, like, W. Kamau Bell focuses on how many projects he was doing. I mean, TV, commercials, movies. He was everywhere doing everything. And then once he had the money, he was doing his own stuff. So Bill Cosby came onto the scene and never left. Still has not left in our cultural conscience. So an interesting part of this family-friendly thing that is also ploy to cover up the assault and rape that's going on behind the scenes is this pedestal that Bill Cosby puts himself up on as an upstanding Black man. So he becomes like this moral arbiter, and because he's been in education, quote unquote. Now we're talking about TV education. We're talking about educational entertainment. Turns out he didn't really properly like graduate from college. They gave him an honorary degree. He's not good at school. Not knocking anyone who's not good at school, but you're trying to play like this upstanding teacher, moral person when your career has been in comedy and TV this whole time. Let's not forget. So because Bill Cosby doesn't swear in his comedy, he has a right to talk down to every other comedian who does swear. And another bit of background that they gave that was really helpful for me to know was that Dick Gregory was the first Black comedian to come out of the Chitlin circuit, which is playing to to fully Black audiences and breaking into white audiences right before Bill Cosby comes along. So Bill Cosby is, and Dick Gregory, like I would say fewer people know of Dick Gregory than Bill Cosby. So you have this like breakthrough with Bill Cosby and his kind of, dare I say, like Uncle Tom-esque adjacency to the white man, sort of this sort of thing. And he doesn't swear in his comedy. And now, after doing all these educational TV shows and being the arbiter of the moral, whatever, I remember reading something by Ta-Nehisi Coates about Bill Cosby. And it was I think it was about the pound cake speech. And there are a few speeches that Bill Cosby gave around this time that were, the message to Black people was to pull your pants up. What were you doing with a piece of pound cake from that store so that they should come in and shoot you? Like, he was blaming what happens to Black people on Black people, and especially poor Black people. And damn, I mean, like, how are you going to play Black America like that? Like, people who have helped put you where you are on the map, and then you're coming out here. Apparently he called, like Eddie Murphy said this in his stand-up, so like could be fabricated, but I think it's true. He called up Eddie Murphy and told him not to swear. Now this is moving into that Trump narcissist behavior that I don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to do something about it. Why can't you just let Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor come along and swear and be themselves? And you have to have a problem with that. You have to actively tear them down. So this moral arbiter, this moral arbitering looks really bad when behind the scenes you're drugging and raping women, And it's like, why do you feel that way? Why are you driving these points home so hard? Because you're lying to yourself. So that was interesting to see W. Kamau Bell and his perception of Cosby. Well, and other experts who, like Mark Lamont Hill, he's a Dr. Hill. He has some great commentary and a great story about Cosby, but oh man, I mean, it is just wild. It is wild to see W. Kamau Bell grapple with this pound cake speech and have read about Ta-Nehisi Coates talking about it and really understanding like the betrayal of like the cisgendered Black man. The betrayal that the cisgendered Black man felt towards Cosby when he was coming out and being like, why aren't y'all rich like me? You gotta pull your pants up and, all this bullshit. So, again, it's tough because it really feels like the wearing down of Black culture. Like, Cosby was so instrumental to the movement. Early on, he hired, before they would have white folks in blackface doing stunts for Black people in Hollywood, because of course they were. And Cosby came along and was like, fuck this, and gave jobs to Black folks. The Cosby Show was the back end, like the behind the camera end of things, were Black producers, Black hair and makeup artists. So you have someone who's not only trying to uplift the culture through their work, but someone who's giving jobs to people. And then once, later on, he gives crazy money to HBCUs, which again is like how are you not going to root for that person? If you're part of the Black community, you understand the importance to HBCUs. Creepy that he gave his biggest donation to Spelman, the Black women's college. But, okay. Yeah. I think uh, along the lines of this wearing down of Black culture is this sort of horrifying feeling when your like dark, depressed ass outlook matches up with academic and culture experts on the landscape of rape culture in the States. And yeah, it doesn't make me feel good to be right. You know what I mean? And yeah, the older I get, the more I see, I get it. Like the world that's given to us is shit, and we have to figure out how to make it work for us. And oftentimes that's doing the things that we didn't have, making those spaces that we never could hold. So now I'm like, happy Black History Month. No, I know maybe you want something more exciting or shiny or happy, but this is Black history. And this is something that struck me, that blew me away, was that, and again, many of my many of the people who identify as femme or women who I'm close to, in queer and non-binary, to be honest, but if I say, have you been sexually assaulted? The answer is yes. So that's horrifying. So it affects all of us. It affects all of us. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter what your race is. Sexual assault and rape is a huge problem. And I think it's a very common way for people to reenact the trauma that's happened to them onto others. And it's sad that we don't have any sort of, like someone can go to jail, but like what they need is professional help. They need resources. They need to learn how to not violently take out their trauma on other people. Imagine what kind of society it would be if this wasn't happening as much. So yeah, I it's heavy, but that's what I want this this podcast is a safe space for the heavy shit, for the ugly shit, for the dark shit, also for, the joyful shit. But I feel more connected when people are seeing the issues that I have and that the people around me have. So what I want to leave you with is, can you separate the art from the artist? Can you? Do you? I'm interested. I'm interested in kind of like us all asking ourselves this. I constantly ask myself this. And the other thing I want to leave you with is bring it to the light. Bring it to the light. Because it's going to be a brighter world for everyone if you can bring your shit to the light. So thank you for sticking with me on this super intense film section. And at your own pace, when you're ready, I highly recommend you watch W. Kamau Bell's Cosby documentary. Oh shit, I was going to say, my God, I was going to say, sorry, this blew me away, that the statute of limitations, when I first became aware of it, it was like 7 years, which means that if someone sexually assaults you and you wait 7 years in one day to come forward about it, you don't have a case in court. And this is messed up for so many reasons. Because a lot of times people are assaulted as young people, as children or teens, by people they know. And it's too much to manage, to be honest about it. It's not safe, to be honest. So it's so important that we allow people who have been sexually assaulted and raped as kids to come forward about it, and to accuse the person who did it to them. That's so minimal in terms of what they deserve. And so a group of women, once they found out about each other's cases when it came to Cosby, and of course, by the time they found out, it was the statute of limitations had already passed. They lobbied and worked their asses off to get the statute of limitations removed from the state of California, and for other states. I think because of the Cosby, in certain other states, in Nevada specifically, it was made until it was lengthened. The statute of limitations was lengthened. So this is part of like the legislative branch of women's issues, and well, not just women, but this is protecting so many people. Not protecting because they've already been violated, but this is holding accountability for so many people. The ability that the statute of limitations does not exist anymore in California, and that it's at least longer for some other states. And this happened because of Cosby being a serial rapist. I'm not trying to say this is a good thing that came out of, like, I'm not trying to say that, but it's unbelievable how once you look at these issues, you see how fucked up society has made it for us, for people to come forward with their stories. And on top of that, it's super dark, and they do a good job of showing that as they wrapped the documentary series, Bill Cosby is released from jail on a technicality in court, basically probably because of his narcissistic, manipulative behavior. He was promised by someone in court that anything he said in the depositions wouldn't be used against him. Then that person stepped down. A new person came in, said, fuck that. This is going to be used. These depositions are going to be used against you. And sent him to jail. And then he's out because apparently that violated his civil rights. So now an expert in the film says it was a good decision for a bad man. A good decision from the Supreme Court for a bad man. So, to see the justice system work to benefit Bill Cosby when we know he's a rapist, we know what he did, it's just too much. And I can't imagine being one of these women, having that happen, coming forward with your story, receiving mountains of hate and threats, and seeing him go to prison and seeing him come out. I just can't imagine. My heart goes out to this group of women, and yeah, I'm gonna leave it with that. Go watch this documentary, and and yeah, be kind to women. Don't abuse them or rape them. Thank you.
Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
Ooh, okay, and we're back. Listen, I knew it was going to be heavy, but I'm glad we talked about it. It's 2222, so it's, and we're in the year of the tiger, and there's the I feel the shift. I feel the shift. So there's some brightness ahead. I know we're in the shit, but there's some brightness ahead. And I think if you look within, you'll see it. I want to do our come back home segment. I want to check in. For me, it's crazy. It's crazy when you have like a couple great days and then you realize, no. That's not the norm. But today was one of those days where it was everything all at once. It was like waking up and doing every single ritual and writing exercise and bathing and like everything I know to take care of myself, take care of my body, choose care and love and rest. And then I like broke out into this rash that I keep breaking out into, and I got overwhelmed, as I often do, with everything that I have going on, and I was just like, I just don't know if I can do it today. But then I was comforted by my mom. I love her so much, and I just wouldn't be here without her, And she, like, I had made the decision to do it, but she helped me get out of the house, and I had scheduled this spiritual consultation. And I want to make a shout out in case there's anyone who lives in the Bay who's listening. Queen Hippie Gypsy is the shit. Definitely go to that store in downtown Oakland, soak up the vibes, do a spiritual consultation with Lily. I mean, it's really beautiful what she's doing in terms of healing with her business over there. But yeah, I made it in there and it was great. It was so great. I got to connect with someone on a spiritual level, a Black woman at that, who sees, whose third eye is open. And it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And it was, it was a little scary. And I think I was probably stressed. I wasn't really stressed about that this morning, but I wanted to have a good day. I wanted to go in there feeling good. And I went in there feeling like shit. But it's okay. It's okay. And that's often how it happens. I don't know if it's because I'm a Libra or whatever, mulatto, not binary, but the good and the bad often come together. So it's tough, it's tricky, but it's also life. And I think that the harder of a time you're having, probably the more special and unique you are. So definitely remember that. Remember that your challenges really can it's like the pressure that makes the diamond or whatever. I really do feel that today. I didn't feel that this morning, but I feel it today. And today I feel like I am whole and I am okay and I am of worth and of value. And I have love for myself. And by virtue of that, I have love for others. So, yeah, I want to leave you with this little saying. I do Vipassana meditation, and I've done several of the 10-day silent meditation retreats. But after you do it, they're like, okay, you got to meditate in the morning and in the evening. And I try to just get one in the morning. And at the end of the meditation, there's this saying, it's Bhagatu Sabha Mangalang. And it means may you be happy. May all people be happy. And I love that. I love that. I love putting that energy out into the world. May people be happy. There's that Dr. Howard Thurman quote, don't ask yourself what makes you come alive. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that, because the world needs people who have come alive. Dr. Howard Thurman. Yeah, it's true. It's like, find what makes you tick and then hold on to that. And yeah, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Links to some of the things that I've discussed this evening will be in the show notes. And thank you for joining me for another episode. It is so great to connect with you through this way. And I'm so happy that it's Black History Month, and we're going to be talking about a lot of other great shit. Black shit, queer black shit. All the shit that I love and am super obsessed with. So, yeah. Also, the Patreon, it's so cool. It allows you to support an artist like me, like a Black, queer, independent artist, without the man, quote unquote, getting in the way, like streaming services. And Patreon is more like a crowdfunding platform. So I really appreciate that, and support Black art, support Black restaurants, support Black businesses, support Black institutions, educational, cultural, support Black. Okay, I love you. Breezy out.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.